Hello, everyone, and welcome to Traveling the Multiverse. I am your host, MrEliMac, and today we are adventuring into Earth 1. Yes, that is an Earth that was created in 2010, believe it or not. It is sort of maybe one of the newest Earths to be existing, and we will talk about more about it later. But before we actually get into talking about Earth 1, allow me to introduce my guest that I have brought on this journey with us. He is a former multiplex entertainment TV throwdown champion. He is, and I'm going to say this because he needs to know that I deserve that belt now. He is a former Arrowverse champion, because I deserve that title now. I beat you in a Full Metal random match, so I deserve that title now. He is a former partner of mine whenever we competed in Geek Trivia. He is the Z-Man, Zaddeus Smith. Zaddeus, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eli, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you for being so glorious as to recognize me as the former Arrowverse champ. Hey, if Full Metal ever wants to run it back and wants to make the title official, I'm down to do it again.
Look, the only reason why you beat me the first time was because I couldn't remember Michael James Shaw's name for Constantine. It's the only reason why you won that match.
And I think it was Juliana Harkavy that got me was my answer. So thank you, Dinah Drake.
Yeah, you were able to get Dinah Drake's name. I couldn't get freaking what? Brother Voodoo? No, it's not Brother Voodoo. I can't even remember his character's name anymore from Constantine.
Me neither.
Look, we haven't played an Arrowverse trivia in a long time, so like how some people are whenever they stop competing in movie trivia, all their movie knowledge goes away. When we stop playing in Arrowverse, all of our Arrowverse knowledge goes away.
Same, and especially with the Arrowverse being the way it is, pretty much just a shadow of his former self, kind of. So.
Oh yeah, I had a friend of mine on Twitter. Like she shared to me the Arrowverse trivia stuff that they were doing on Twitter for the 10-year anniversary, and the first round was just questions about season 1. I was like, I don't remember anything about season 1.
Yeah. I know it's weird. It's weird to go back and see how things were in season 1. Like, oh, it was such a 9-day difference between season 1 and 8.
Yeah, and speaking of the Arrowverse sort of being the Earth 1 of their universe, we're talking about Earth 1 of the comic books universe. Last week, Malcolm Lay and I talked about Earth 0, which was the Prime Earth. Now we're going to be talking about Earth 1. So, Zaddeus, before I give the introduction of what Earth 1 is, what is your background on Earth 1 of DC Comics?
Well, when it comes to DC Comics, I don't know a lot about like the comic books or graphic novels and stuff. Even though, thankfully, I was able to do a little research, and I actually was able to read the first volume of Superman, Earth 1, the volume 1 of it, and I find this very fascinating, and I'm very interested in seeing more about it and reading the other 2 volumes of it.
Yeah, Earth 1 is a very fascinating idea, especially, it was funny, I'm just going to go ahead and say this now, when I read the first volume of Superman Earth 1, and then I watched Man of Steel, I was like, there are a lot of similarities here that I don't know if they meant to do.
I was thinking the same thing, especially when it came to some themes of that volume, so I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, so without any further ado, let's get into the introduction on how is Earth 1 described in the Multiversity comic book, which the Multiversity Guidebook is sort of the guidebook that I'm following to talk about the multiverse. If you would like a copy, you could probably go on Amazon or maybe at your local bookstore or something. Grant Morrison had an amazing run with the Multiversity. They really wanted to do a sequel to Multiversity. Unfortunately, they weren't able to, but now Joshua Williamson in the current DC comic run is doing the Dark Crisis on Infinite Earth, so multiverse galore is still happening. But with all that out of the way, let's get into Earth 1. Earth 1 is described as, this freshly created universe is still cooling and as yet unformed. Earth 1's known super beings, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Teen Titans, are at the beginning of their careers. Time and space are still pliable, and nothing here is certain. So as you can see, it is very much, at the time of that writing, treating Earth 1 as sort of a new Earth, still yet creating, still needing more stories to fully be created into the Earth. So, I also wanted to mention this. I was stuttering. I just wanted to mention this, that Earth 1, in my opinion, sort of, once you get into sort of the second volume of Superman Earth 1, I also want to think that Earth 1 is sort of a modernization of the original Silver Age Earth 1 of comics.
I can believe that. I can kind of see that a little bit with Earth with Volume 1 in itself, and how he. I mean, I'm not sure if we want to spoil anything, but like how he. Well, so I won't say exactly where, but how he resides when he gets to Metropolis, and how he's living his life as new Clark Kent, pretty much. I find it's very different from like how classic tales used to be. So I can see that.
Yeah, and Zaddeus, just, I know you said you were going to read the other ones, but I'm going to spoil the other stories, because to fully understand what Earth 1 is. So, I'm going to go sort of deep into the Superman Earth 1 books first, since Superman Earth 1 was sort of the first stories to go into it. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the production of Batman Earth 1, because Batman Earth 1 is a whole other can of worms. But Superman Earth 1 was very much, when they first initialized this, actually, I believe they treated it as, they will write the writers and the creators will write one story that they really want to, and we'll treat it like movies. Like, this is one movie that people are watching, and then they'll read the sequel, and then they'll read the third one, and so on and so forth. So the first volume deals with Superman going into Metropolis for the very first time, and trying to get integrated into the society of Metropolis, and then a villain from Krypton's past, Tyrell, from the planet Daron. I believe it is Daron. It's spelled Dheron. So I'm just saying Daron, or how do you pronounce it? Did you get to that part?
I was thinking Heron, but I see what you mean. I wasn't sure if the D would be silent or not. So I'm like, is it Heron or Daron? Heron? I think either or probably. There probably is a real way to say it, but we don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea either. So I just said Daron. And so it's all about like an invasion of the people, or like just an invasion storyline. Basically, if you're going to do a Superman origin story, you're going to do an invasion storyline. Just instead of Zod, it's a character named Tyrell. And that's the basic story of that. And then, yeah, we move on to the second story of Superman Earth 1 Volume 2, which is where we are introduced to a classic Superman villain known as Raymond Jensen, aka Parasite, as the main antagonist. And the reason why Raymond Jensen, and this is where I go into the theory of this is a modernization of the Silver Age Earth 1, is because the main Parasite in modern continuity is Rudy Jones. Except in the Silver Age, he was known as Raymond Jensen. So that's the entire reasoning behind that. So what are your thoughts on them going the Silver Age route with the Parasite, at least?
I think that's actually perfect, just in case of if you've grown up knowing one. Because myself, I believe Rudy Jones was the Parasite of both the Superman animated series, and also he was named Rudy on Smallville. And then in this last season of Superman and Lois, we were introduced to Allie Austin, which was kind of a formation of Parasite. And so I think it's all great to like get to know different Parasites and from different origins and different depending on continuities from wherever they come from. So I think this is cool.
Yeah, and even in Supergirl, they introduced both Rudy Jones and Raymond Jensen, because I believe Rudy Jones was a professor that became Parasite in like season 3-ish, and then Raymond Jensen was the Parasite of season 4 who worked with the DEO.
You're exactly right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I nearly did too until I just looked back at the name. I was like, oh yeah. And also, something that was introduced in Superman Earth 1 was the military being a major force, with Major Sandra Lee being a major character that they're building up into this. But also, it's also the second volume is sort of Clark losing his powers to Parasite and truly like learning what it's like to be human and him admiring humans to continue on with their daily lives even though they don't have superhuman powers. That's where the Parasite thing, that's the story that I think out of the three is the weakest because I don't think Parasite is that great of a villain to have. I would have preferred like maybe Metallo being a villain, but that's just me. But you continue on in your own way, and we also get introduced to a new character for the universe, Lisa Lasalle, who will become a the main love interest of Superman and Clark Kent. And the love story between Lois and Clark does not exist in the Earth One comics. So when you hear that, what are your thoughts, Zad? Hearing Lois and Clark is not the love story.
I think it's okay, even though part of me always thinks that no matter how many loves are between them, they're destined kind of to be together. However, it kind of takes me back to how I kind of grew up with Batman and Bruce Wayne. Like I feel like Bruce is now supposedly destined to be with Selena and stuff. But however, I've seen him with I think Diana at points and with some other ladies before. So I feel like Bruce has never had really a destiny in itself. However, I've always felt like Clark is going to end up with Lois eventually. Even though personally, I've given the shows that I watch, I thought Clark has had better chemistry with other females in his past. Alicia,
Very fair, very
sorry.
fair. And also, Volume 2 ends with. Uh, they do. Volume 2 is so far the only one, I think, to do the quote unquote post credit scene in comics, and that's when we're introduced to Luthor Squared, or Lex Squared, in Alexander Luthor and Alexandra Luthor. Alexandra being the wife of Alexander Luthor.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and look, the way they have Alexander Luthor, I'm calling him that specifically because they never actually refer to him as Lex Luthor in the comic. But he has
Mhm.
like a full head of red hair, full beard. And so, yeah, that's his look. When they introduced that, I thought to myself, well, this is definitely a departure. So you're hearing that you're about to get Alexander and Alexander. I was trying to find a nice pun for it, but you were about to get introduced to two Luthors that are married to each other. Thoughts?
I think it's perfect, and I say that only because of I say it mainly because of the first, and I know I don't want to draw too many comparisons, but from the backlash that Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg got from like Batman vs Superman stuff, I never personally saw him as like the Gene Hackman or even Michael Rosenbaum Lex Luthor anyway, because I think they even called him Alexander at points in that movie too. So just the fact that I think it's fine not for Lex Luthor not to just to be the Lex Luthor that we know of, or but to have an Alexander Luthor that has, of course, probably has some Lex qualities and stuff like that, but just to be a different variation from him, as long as he's, it's, I think we just know that he's going to eventually be Superman's greatest enemy, probably, or at least one of the top two.
Well, and that's when we get
In this
into
case, top three.
and that's where we get into Volume 3, which is where they introduce Zod as, because as you were seeing in Volume 1, they're hinting, or like Tyrell is hinting like, oh yeah, we had this big bad, we had someone that helped us like destroy Krypton. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
revealed, again spoiler, that it is Zod that helped the Darons, and that, or the Duranians? I can't remember what they call themselves. But also, it is revealed that Zod's name is not General Drew Zod. He is Zod El, the brother to Jor-El, and the uncle to Superman. So, what is your thoughts on that big change in Earth 1? That Zod is not his last name, Zod is his first name, and he is the uncle to Superman.
I think that's fine. I'm completely down with that. And again, I said because the desires that I've grown up to, you probably hear me say this a lot, but like I've known General Zod, Major Zod, a Zod. I think if I'm not mistaken from Krypton, the show that was maybe uh Superman's grandfather's son. So like maybe yeah, his brother as well. I think his name was like Valzad though or something like that. So I find it interesting that they can come up with these different variations of characters of O that we know of, and I like that. However, I think the weird thing is I actually was thinking it was going to be a Brainiac reveal, but Zod made sense too. That
Oh,
I thought it was Brainiac that was the one that was helping Tyrell.
oh,
But
trust
interesting,
me.
Zod.
When I first read Volume 1, that was my main thought as well. I was like, oh, we're getting Brainiac. Because you see the ship,
Hmm.
you see the three dots that look like Brainiac's traditional logo. And I'm like, yeah, this is totally a Brainiac story. This is totally the direction that we're going. And then when they did the Zod reveal, I was thinking, okay. And then they went further with it. I was like, okay. So yeah, I was very intrigued by this. And sort of another thing that they did was that they killed Alexander Luthor. They killed the male Luthor. And then Alexandra said that she does not want to be known as Alexandra anymore. She wants to be known as Lex Luthor. So, that's also a big shift coming out of Volume 3 of Superman Earth 1, which is that instead of a male Lex Luthor, it is a female Lex Luthor. So, thoughts on that, Zaddeus?
That's very interesting. And I now I kind of wonder like I feel like a female's Lex Luthor could probably get do a lot more and do a lot of different things when it comes to like the character of Clark Kent as well. And I feel like a lot of people would. I mean, I'm sure she's probably a mogul or a rich media mogul or something like that in this world too. But I feel like a lot of people would probably look not I won't say down on her, but would look past her, which will allow her to do things a lot more creatively and like allow her to get away with things possibly without people suspecting her and people underestimating her. So I kind of like that. I like that a lot.
Well, the way both of the Luthors are portrayed is that they're both scientists. They are both very smart in their fields, and they're even the ones that the military go and say, "Hey, we need to find a way to kill Superman just in case. Can you help us?" And so that's sort of their plot going into Earth 1. And yeah, it's the entire story. If they would have continued on with Superman Earth 1 with like a volume 4 or something, I'm very curious what direction they would have gone in. Maybe even we would have gotten a modernization of the Silver Age Brainiac with having him look a little bit more closer to how he looks in the Super Friends show, and I would have just been intrigued by that. So, thoughts on what the future could be?
I think it's very bright. Like, and I would actually love to see like what other different variations of villains that they could come up with, especially our bad boy from Apocalypse as well. Like, I know eventually Darkseid will be somewhere far down the line. I will hope not, hopefully not in like in a volume 4, but I would like to see Metallo because I too I love Metallo as a villain, and I just would love for somebody to write him as a very capable villain, like a very capable, all powerful villain that I think he could be. But because some of the titles I've seen from the past, at least from in TV wise, because that's where most of my knowledge comes from, have been very mediocre.
Yeah, that's very fair. I also would have loved to have seen Metallo, but that is it with Superman Earth 1. Let's move on to Batman Earth 1. And this one has quite a history with it because the first Batman book of Batman Earth 1, Volume 1, was supposed to come out in 2011, but it got delayed. And then the second volume was supposed to come out not that long after. Then it got delayed. And then the third volume was supposed to come out, but it got delayed forever because Jeff Johns took forever to write Doomsday Clock and the Three Jokers. So Batman Earth 1 has been the one book where it's like, oh, this is taking forever to come out. And the steam for the actual stories aren't that well liked, or at least like the stories are liked. It's just the actual history of the book. So the first book very much is an origin story to Batman and sort of his early years. as Batman, or his early year. However, in this version of Batman, he's not the Batman that you know. He literally, in his first story, falls off of a building when trying to grapple from one building to another.
That sounds perfect. Like I like seeing Batman with training wheels. Pretty much like different take of Batman Year One. I think that's great.
Yeah, and also in the story, Harvey Bullock is in it, but he's not the fat Harvey Bullock that we know. He's sort of a he's a former TV police detective that is in the bad graces. Like, nobody cares about him anymore, so he's trying to do his best, and he's gonna get that celebrity again by solving the Wayne murders. Also, James Gordon is on the take, and the reason why is because the mob killed his wife in a car wreck. And
Wow.
yeah, and also, you know the Andy Serkis Alfred from the Batman movie? Heavily inspired off of this version of Alfred, because he's got a cane.
Okay.
He's grizzled. Like, if you read any of Earth 1, you can see some of the inspirations, at least for Alfred, in those stories. And then, sort of the main antagonist of this book is the Penguin, who is the mayor of Gotham, who ran for mayor against Thomas Wayne. And that sort of, the entire mystery is that Bruce is trying to find out who killed his parents, if it was like a hit job, and he's determined that it was a hit job. And then Penguin sort of reveals, yeah, I sent someone to kill your parents, but they never got to them. A random person killed your parents. And so that was the story. And also, Bruce Wayne is written to be like an arrogant asshole. So that's something that I also found intriguing. So hearing sort of the story. Oh, and they also introduced a new character, a new antagonist crazy guy named the Birthday Boy, who does a lot of bad things to young girls. That's all I'm gonna say. And it's all in Arkham Asylum. And also, this is the part of the Bruce Wayne history where Bruce Wayne's mom is an Arkham and not a Kane. And so that's sort of how all this comes together. So hearing just the basic stuff of Volume 1 and sort of the early stuff of Batman, what are your thoughts so far?
I'm super intrigued to read this because I'm just seeing so many similarities to some TV shows, video games, Telltale, Batman series first of all, and then also like from the Batman with Martha Wayne actually being the Arkham, like you said, I believe. So like that's interesting. And then wow, I'm very intrigued to know more about this, about Batman Year One, not Batman Year One, Batman Earth One.
I'll say that
More about-
Batman Earth 1 may be the most interesting departures because it's such a radical departure. Because even of how the comic is drawn, you can see Batman's eyes under the mask, sort of like how you would see it in a movie. It's not the white eyes. So they're very much... Because Gary Frank is the artist on it, and Gary Frank is an amazing artist. He drew Doomsday Clock, he drew Superman Secret Origin, like, he's drawn so many great stuff. And so Gary Frank draws everything amazingly. And yeah, it's so great. And then we get into Volume 2. Oh, wait. Batman Earth 1 also does post-credit scene type stuff. And in this one, sort of, the post-credit scene is the Riddler's gonna be the next big bad. And so we get into Volume 2, and the Riddler's the big bad. And he's just killing people. And and the thing about the Riddler in Volume 2 is that we don't know who he is. They never actually say his name. We never are revealed to what is the Riddler's secret identity of sorts. And he's a serial killer that's just trying to get back at the mob. And like, he wants to be the new guy in charge of everything. And we also get introduced to Killer Croc, who, in this version of the DC Universe, he's not a bad guy. In fact, Bruce Wayne takes him in and treats him as a friend. He doesn't treat him as a monster, which I like that little twist on everything. And so, yeah, and we also get a quick cameo from Selena Kyle in it. But we also fully get more stuff with Harvey Dent and Jessica Dent, the sister of Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent and Jessica Dent are twins, and they were first introduced in the first volume, but only like as quick cameos, like on-camera cameos. And then in this one, they're more fleshed out characters. And that's when Sal Maroni, you know Sal Maroni, he attacks Harvey Dent's face. And Harvey Dent's a very mean guy. He is not a nice person in this universe at all. And he gets the one side of his face attacked by Sal Maroni, and then he dies. But then as he is dying, Jessica Dent goes over, tries to comfort and tries to save her brother, and then one side of her face gets injured. And you sort of get the hints of Jessica Dent is going to be the Two-Face in this story. So, hearing all that of Volume 2, and Riddler gets thrown in jail, by the way. And then we get a hint of Catwoman for Volume 3. She's going to be a player. So, hearing all that, what are your thoughts on Volume 2? With the lead up to a female Two-Face, Riddler being sort of this unknown character, and Batman continuing to learn more about what it's like to be a detective.
Well, I think it sounds cool in regards to Jessica Dent, and I feel like, and just judging from how you say it ends, I feel like it's gonna be kind of a split personality type of thing. Like, yes, I know that's always kind of been like the Two Face sort of way, but I feel like part of her, like the quote unquote Two Face side of her, is gonna be more of a Harvey side that maybe she brings to light in her head, and then the other side is of course gonna be strictly Jessica. And then so I think it's gonna be like that split personality wise. But I find it also one of my favorite things that you said was that the fact that Bruce took in Killer Croc, because I like that so much. I feel like Croc, I feel like Clayface, given some of the stuff that yes, that in their villain ways, the ways that I've seen them while growing up, they were villains, but I feel like they were people that could easily be rehabbed or that needed help more so than just needed to be like some people have said like in the past, just to be beat down in the streets like by a guy dressed up in a Batman in a bat costume. So I like that a lot. I like to see that Bruce is actually trying to take some time to helpfully actually rehab some of these people. And then Killer Croc's not even well, I don't even want to call him Killer, so Croc's not even a villain. He's just a guy that Bruce is trying to help.
Well, in the comic, they refer to him by his real first name, Waylon. And even in the story, like, Batman and Waylon have a fight. They do fight each other. But, like, halfway through, Waylon's like, dude, wait, why are we even fighting again? Are you after that Riddler guy? Look, he's down there. Just go after him and just leave me alone. That's all I want. Just leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's perfect to me. Like, and then eventually, I'm guessing they end up befriending each other more. So that's perfect.
Well, Killer Croc eventually actually gains residence in the Batcave. So Killer Croc is actually living in the Batcave with Bruce and Alfred. And then we get into Volume 3, which your entire thing with the split personality disorder between Jessica and Harvey Dent was 100% nail on the head. They even
Nice.
like pull Harvey's body from his grave with everyone like, oh no, Harvey's actually alive, when instead it's like, no, it's just another personality. And we also get introduced to what is his name? I can't remember, but it's Bruce's grandfather, Maria Wayne's dad. And so we are finally introduced to another family member outside of the Adrian Arkham, that's his name, outside of the other family members. And then it's the entire story of, oh, we have to beat Two-Face because he's giving bad guys weapons. And then it's slowly revealed that, oh, it's Harvey. Harvey's Two-Face. He's back from the dead. Then it's revealed that, no, it's not actually Harvey. It's Jessica. And then Catwoman's involved helping out. Her costume, if you ever go out and read Volume 3 of Batman Earth 1, after you read Volume 1 and Volume 2, just so you can look at Catwoman's costume design. Because it is not what you would think. There is pink
Really?
in it, and I'm like, that is a choice for the design.
This sounds very stealthy to me.
It's very weird. It is very weird whenever there is black to it. There is the traditional black coloring to her costume, but it's just not what you would expect. And then, what is the next major? Oh, it's also revealed that Adrian Arkham is not actually Adrian Arkham. His grandfather is actually dead. And that the character that was been pretending to be Adrian Arkham the entire time was actually Clayface.
Nice.
And then we learn one of the supplier of the weapons is actually Toyman, Winslow Shot.
Makes sense.
And by the way, Barbara Gordon is in this entire run. She's not in the second one, but she's in the first one and the third one. And she's a major supporting character in the first one. Then she returns in the third one, sort of near the end, and we get a tease of her eventually becoming Batgirl. We do get a quick little tease of Dick Grayson becoming Robin. And in this version of Earth 1, Dick Grayson is not a white guy. He is African American. And he still worked with the circus. And then we get Ragman as well. And we're sort of setting what they're trying to do, even though this is sort of like marketed as this is the end of the Batman Earth 1 trilogy. They're leading towards a Batman and the Outsiders team, with Batman being the leader and the Outsiders being Killer Croc, Catwoman, Ragman, Robin, and Batgirl, with Alfred there as well to help train. But then in the very final scene, I just need to state this right now, in the very final scene, Toyman is saved. He is not put in prison, he's not put in Arkham, he is saved, quote unquote, by a man in a purple suit, green hair, and white makeup. But this guy looks like he could be in his 60s. Really? So it's an older Joker compared to the young Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So, thoughts on that? On just all of that?
Well, and now I'm kind of focused on that anyway. Well, actually, no, let me go back. I like the fact that Barbara is, and I forgot to mention this when we talk about the volume one, but like, it surprised me so much that Jim is on the take, and I understand why, because he wants to protect the family he has left, but I think that's also sets up Barbara great, like even better to become Batgirl, like to be part of the Bat family now, because she wants to. I feel like she's also going to try to make up for some of her father's misdeeds and stuff. And I'm not saying that he's like killed anybody for the mob, but I feel like she's just going to want to like kind of pay penance for her father as well. But I'm so interested in the fact that it's an older Joker, because now it makes me wonder if they're going to kind of do like a, I don't want to say a Joker gang like they did in like the Beyond series and stuff, but maybe he has a pupil or something that he makes his next Joker. Maybe it's like more of a mentor and not just one person, you know?
Well, that's the thing. Like they marketed this as the end of the Batman Earth 1 comics, and I'm like, but you're setting up the Joker. You're setting up this future, and you're just ending it. Also, I was like basically ignoring all of the Gordon stuff throughout all of this retelling, but Gordon goes on a journey from being someone that was just gonna go along with the mob to now like solely against it, and even like the most well-respected police officer there. And so also Bullock goes through a journey of being a pompous guy who becomes a drunkard that stays in a bar to slowly getting himself redeemed. Like, there are a lot of arcs, and I'm not doing it justice. If you want to like justice for these like comics, you need to go out and read these Earth 1 books. In my opinion, they are great comics. And is there anything else about Batman Earth 1 that you want to touch upon?
Well, not here, because I'm actually you saying that I wanted to hear more about it before, so I'm gonna read. I'm definitely gonna continue reading these.
Yeah. I mean, the Batman Earth 1 books, though the third one sort of like starts to falter a bit, I think the Earth 1 books, well, never mind. We haven't gotten to Green Lantern yet, and Green Lantern is very strong.
I will say this last thing about Batman Earth 1. I like how I just did a spiel for Clayface of how he could be redeemable and how he should be somebody Bruce should try to rehab. And it turns out he's impersonating Bruce's grandfather in this book. I'm like, wow. Good job,
Killer Croc is able to get redeemed. Clayface is not. And they even do this neat thing. They even do this neat thing in that they have Clayface, and they're even like doing this little thing where they're just talking about him, and they say, "Oh yeah, his fingerprints are gone and his facial features are gone. Like no one can fully identify him, but he's gone by all these identities." And they're just listing off all the different identities of the multiple Clayfaces in the past. And I'm like, all right, I see what you did there. That's neat. So we're going to move on to the next sort of run of comics that were released after Batman was introduced, and that was the Teen Titans Earth 1. So remember how I said that Dick Grayson Robin was introduced in the end of Volume 3 of Batman Earth 1? Yeah, that's when he was first introduced. He has nothing to do with Teen Titans in this Earth. In fact, Earth 1, the Teen Titans that were introduced in just Volume 1 are Cyborg, Changeling, or Beast Boy, Terra, Jericho, Tempest, Starfire, and Raven.
Okay.
But Jericho, instead of Terra being the Judas in the Judas contract, it is Jericho instead. So yeah.
That makes sense though, because if I'm not mistaken, isn't Jericho Slade's son?
Yes, and Slade is in the comic, but he does not look like the Slade that you would expect him to look like. So, yeah, like, traditional Slade just looks like guy in generic, or Earth 1 Slade looks like guy in generic armor, and he doesn't have an eye patch.
Oh, wow, that's kind of a departure. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be honest, his entire look is the most underwhelming of them all. He's the one that I'm just like, that doesn't look cool at all. But Cyborg is sort of like our leader of the team, quote unquote, but he doesn't want to be a part of this. Terra and Cyborg are also dating, but Terra is sort of the problem child, the way she's portrayed. Beast Boy is raised by two great dads, and he's sort of the youngest of the team, sort of. Jericho just doesn't want to have anything to do with Slade. And it's sort of like all the people that are raising these kids, mainly those four, are actually undercover. And they're all just watching their kids and waiting for them to develop powers. However, it is Cyborg's mom that is the most evil of them all. Because Cyborg does not have a dad in this one. He just has a mom, Eleanor Stone. Oh, wow. Yeah. And then when it's sort of revealed that their parents, especially Eleanor, is sort of a bad guy, and even Slade being a bad guy, they try to run away, and then that's when they go to Star Labs, and they discover the bad stuff, which that's where they discover Tempest, who is sort of more like, not Aqualad, not looking like Aqualad that you would expect. He looks more like a fish boy. And then that's where they discover Starfire, who is sort of the person that they've been experimenting with to get the alien DNA and create the characters the way they do. And Cyborg did not go through a horrible accident. It's just metal that just started growing on his skin. That is how Cyborg got his powers. And Raven is a indigenous person that lives on a reservation in New Mexico, and she's sort of the one that can hear Starfire, and she's the one that's sort of able to find a way to get the team together, even though she's not really connected with any of the other characters until Volume 2. And so, yeah, there's so much that happened. Do you have any questions? Because I'd literally have to open up the Volume 1 books to truly let me look in this page.
Not really questions, just very much curiosity. I'm very curious about this because, and I'm not sure what came first, but as soon as but even before you said that, when you said their parents were all part of like undercover bad guys, the first thing that came to my mind was Pride and the Runaways comic, and you literally said they tried to run away. Like, oh Lord, like I don't know about this story. Like, go ahead.
I didn't even think about it until you started saying it, and the Runaways came out first, so
yeah,
I don't know what to do about that. But that's the team. Like the cover, the art is great, and the cover is literally. But yeah, Jericho is the bad guy, sort of like of the teens, sort of like how in the original comics of Runaways, it's the Wilder boy.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. It feels like this is Runaways with DC characters. I don't want to put anything against the author too much, but like I'm even a little bit more interested to see how these different variations of characters are as well. Because I've never heard of Cyborg's mom, Victor Stone's mom, ever. Like I've always known Silas Stone. So that should be very interesting. But I'm very curious to know the differences between the Teen Titans and this Earth One, and kind of how the Runaways are.
Well, the parents of Terra and Beast Boy, they're named. Well, Terra's mom is named, foster mother is named Rita Markov, and Beast Boy's foster dad is Steve Dayton. And if those names don't ring a bell, well, Rita is mainly her first name is Elastigirl from the Doom Patrol, and Steve Dayton is Mento from the Doom Patrol.
Oh, okay.
And the big boss of all of Star Labs, which is revealed in Volume 2, is Niles Calder.
Huh.
Yeah, the chief from Doom Patrol is sort of the big bad. Basically, what this is saying is the Doom Patrol are the big bads.
That's very interesting. That it gets that's a lot. I'm not gonna say it's a lot better, but it's like we're coming around not full circle a little bit, and that's very interesting. I like that.
Yeah, and they haven't released a Volume 3 yet, so I'm curious what a Volume 3 would look like, because also they also introduce characters or a team known as Niles Calder's Titans. So like these are like kids that work with Star Labs. And there's only a team of 3. It's only a team of 3. And the leader of that team is Wally West, aka Impulse.
Mm-hmm.
With also Cole Weathers, also known as Cole from Teen Titans. And then we have Cassie Sandsmark, aka Wonder Girl, which Cassie is race swapped in this one to be an African American girl, sort of like the youngest on the team. So yeah, again, they're just introducing a lot of characters in the Teen Titans book, which is important because a lot of the Teen Titans stuff, sure, they're sidekicks, but also if you want to carry them as their own characters, you sort of need to do this. But they also introduced Joshua Clay, who is another character on the Doom Patrol. But then they have a failed clone of Starfire named Blackfire as sort of the physical threat. And so ultimately it ends with all the teenagers, especially the ones who are working with Star Labs, running away with our main heroes and Niles Calder sort of being like, oh, don't worry, I'm going to get you eventually. And so our ultimate team of Teen Titans are Cyborg, Terra, Beast Boy or Changeling, Raven, Starfire, Impulse, Cole, and Wonder Girl. So that's our team of Teen Titans. No Robin, no Nightwing, no Speedy, no none of those characters. But what are your thoughts so far on the Teen Titans of Earth 1?
I like it. I like it a lot more now as how basically they pretty much rescued the Calder. Yeah, I'll say rescue. They rescued the Calder Titans and kind of formed this bigger group, and by bringing in some of these other characters like Wally and stuff like that. And I think when it comes to the Titans, Robin is a key character. However, I think it's more important to have people like Starfire, Raven, even Cyborg to this extent. Even though I think with some of the Young Justice / Titans I've seen before, Cyborg has been like one of the first call ups to the major leagues, pretty much, aka the JLA. But I think those are some of the more important members of Titans characters.
And I think very much Jeff Lemire, who wrote the Titans books, I think he very much wanted to focus on the Marv Wolfman and George Perez version of the teams, which were the Impulse, Wonder Girl, Nightwing, though Nightwing's not in here, but Cyborg, Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, sort of like that version of the team. And yeah, it's very interesting. Teen Titans is the one book that I very much liked, but also found the most intriguing with all the differences that they did with it. So now we're going to move on over to Wonder Woman, written by the great Grant Morrison. And Wonder Woman is interesting, because the first one doesn't really have a main antagonist outside of Queen Hippolyta. And the way Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman is Princess Diana, and Queen Hippolyta, quote unquote, is the main antagonist of the first one because she doesn't want Diana to go to man's world, and Queen Hippolyta is very anti man's world because early on in Volume 1, they show Hercules attacking the Amazons and raping the Amazons. Trigger warning for that being mentioned. But also, it is later revealed that Wonder Woman or not Wonder Woman, Hippolyta laid with Hercules just so Wonder Woman could be born, so that Wonder Woman could be used as a weapon against man's world. That never actually happened. And we also get introduced to Steve Trevor, who is the pilot that falls onto Themyscira and then is being brought back. He is also race swapped as an African American man. There's even a courtroom scene where he's in chains and there's this big Steve Trevor. I can't do it any justice. I would actually have to actually look at it. But he's put on trial and he is given the lasso of truth and speak your truth and all that. And so there's this big major speech that he gives about being looked down upon due to his race, and it was a very good speech written by Grant Morrison. And then we have Beth Candy, who is Etta Candy, and Nubia is in it, who serves as the second in command to Queen Hippolyta, and also sort of Queen Hippolyta's wife, because on Themyscira, they don't care about genders. It's just, I love you, we're together. Mala is also in it, and she is a former lover of Diana. And then we have a Donna Troy, we have an Artemis, but then we have the Fates, who are sort of in charge of the entire court system of it. And so that's sort of how Earth 1, Volume 1 of Wonder Woman ends, with a courtroom scene. And so, what are your thoughts so far, Zaddeus, on Wonder Woman Volume 1 of Earth 1?
Well, my first question is what day is this set? Is this set in present day of?
It is modern day.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Okay, it makes a lot. It kind of makes it a lot more concise in my head that it's not said that this didn't happen in ancient times or quote unquote the 20s, 30s, or 40s, or something like that. I find it I find it interesting, and it makes sense that her mom would that Hippolyta would kind of be antagonist. Won't call her villain just because she wants to keep Diana there, but then given what happened with Hercules and the rest of the Amazon, I can kind of understand why she feels that way as well. But it's interesting so far. I would like to see what happens next, though, too.
Well,
it does intrigue me to know more about it.
Well, now we're going to go over to Volume 2, which there were flashback scenes to the 1940s, where it shows the Nazis trying to invade Themyscira, with the leader of the team being Baroness Paula von Gunther, who is a classic Wonder Woman villain from the 40s. And so those scenes are just positioned with scenes from modern times, because we also introduced to another villain, Dr. Psycho, and he is sort of like the villain of the modern times with Wonder Woman, while Baroness Paula von Gunther is the main antagonist of the past. But then Paula von Gunther is taken away from the Nazis, and she is integrated into the Themyscirian time, and she is reconditioned to think about love and not war. But then stuff happens on Themyscira, and we also get the final post-credit scene of Maxwell Lord sort of being a big bad for the Wonder Woman franchise. And he is even revealed to be creating things for the military called Project Aries. So, Zaddeus, thoughts?
That's interesting. Project Aries being a project and not the God of War, even though, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Aries is pretty much kind of taking over, possessing is the word I'm looking for. It's kind of possessing Maxwell Lord in a way to try to get him to build these world-ending type of weapons or something like that. I feel it, and I was kind of a little bit taken aback, a little bit disappointed by the fact that they went back into the 1940s. I feel like they did that mainly to for I can't remember her name, Countess von Gupta. I feel like they did that just to maybe maybe redeem her, and then to also place her into the Amazon society. Even though, because part of me kind of thinks this might be a Winter Soldier type of situation where, yes, she seems to be like she's been redeemed, that she's kind of going over to Amazonian type of ways. However, part of me does not trust her as well and feel like that she may end up betraying the team, betraying the Amazons in the end. But we'll see about that.
Well, I like that you think that Aries is just manipulating Maxwell Lord, because I wanted to wait until we got to Volume 3, where it was revealed that Maxwell Lord is actually this Earth's Aries. He is
Okay.
Aries. And he has henchmen known as General Conquest, Dr. Duke, and Mr. Earl, all of whom are inspirations for different henchmen that Ares had in the classic Golden Age. By the way, Grant Morrison pulled a lot from the Golden Age of comics for the Wonder Woman Earth 1 run. Hence why I'm very much like, I think this is very much a modernization of the Silver Age. Again, more stuff being pulled. Also, Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 3 has two stories. It has a modern day story about Wonder Woman and the Amazonians fighting off against Ares, and a story set in the very far off future, and about how the Amazonians basically not took over the world, but they're basically taking over the world, and they're pushing love instead of war, and how peace is basically taken over Earth 1. So yeah, that's sort of what the future of Earth 1 has in store, is the Themyscirians, and they're in charge, and they're pushing love, not war. So, now that you know how the Wonder Woman series ends, thoughts?
Well, I actually like that they're preaching that way, that they're trying to pretty much destroy all war, and it makes sense given how they're a bit bad, like even in comic book wise, and especially in this story, it's Ares, aka the God of War, or in this case, Maxwell Lord, new interpretation of Aries. So they will want to stop war. However, I feel like I can't remember where I heard this from, but it's like war. Wait, maybe it's Vision, but like the very presence, I think, of them taking over, or like, taking over the world is going to breed conflict. And so I feel like just the fact that they, yes, they have good intentions, but I feel like this is going to create super not, maybe like underground cells to try to take out the Amazons, because these people are don't really like the way that they're being taken in charge of, and that they feel like they have no control. I feel like I'm digging way too deep in my mind about this,
Oh,
but
no,
I like
they're
that.
that when the story that's set in the future, like, that is the main thing. There's a hidden underground cell that is trying to take out, like, the president of the world because of
I
all of that.
Wow, I love this. I've never read this, but I feel like I can see it coming, and I like that. That makes me very interested in seeing and knowing more about this as well. Because what is it, Flashpoint Paradox, or wait, how uh, Atlantis and Themyscira are at war with each other, I
Yeah,
believe
that's
it is.
Flashpoint.
And yeah, and I feel like that's something that would happen here as well, unless Atlantis, aka, doesn't exist in this universe yet, and or they've been wiped out already by the Amazons.
Well, once we get done with Green Lantern, that's when I'll talk more about some of the stuff in the future. But now we're on to Green Lantern, which is their most recent books. There's only two of them. And the first volume, again, introduces Hal Jordan, a former astronaut, not a test pilot. He is a former astronaut. He is in outer space. He's trying to clear out some debris, and that's when he discovers the Green Lantern ring in outer space. And he puts it on, I think, and yeah, he puts it on and, like, causes one of his crewmates to die by accident. But then it's sort of, that's when a former robot known as a Manhunter comes back alive to try to kill Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan is able to ultimately kill the Manhunter, but then the ring just sends him into outer space. And that's when he lands on another planet, and we are introduced to Kilowog, who is not a drill sergeant. He's very much like a, cool, another Green Lantern. Let's work together, because I have no idea how to work the ring. And Hal at the same time is like, how can I understand what you're saying? You're an alien. It's like, oh no, the ring is doing that for you. It's like, cool. And that's sort of the main relationship we learn is just the friendship between Kilowog and Hal Jordan. And then we're reintroduced to another character, Arisia Robb, who is sort of a more experienced Green Lantern and who would eventually take up the leadership role of the Green Lantern Corps. And again, the Manhunters are sort of taking command. The reason why there haven't been Green Lanterns before in a long time, or even Green Lanterns aren't a major thing, is because the Manhunters have been hiding the power battery on Oa. And Oa is not like the traditional planet that we know. It is just another planet with people there. And the Manhunters are sort of holding down the powers of the Green Lantern because of it. And then that's when we're introduced to one of the Guardians of the Universe. I nearly said Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's the Guardian of the Universe. And his name is never revealed. He's just known as the Guardian. And he's basically telling Hal, like, hey, destroy the green power battery. When you destroy that, you destroy all the Manhunters and you just destroy all the Green Lanterns. Green Lanterns don't need to exist anymore. But Hal refuses and said, like, saves the Green Lanterns. And we also get introduced to other Green Lanterns such as Sinestro, Tomar-Ray, and Salak. And then ultimately the Green Lanterns are able to beat down the Manhunters. The power battery is restored. And Arisia Robb again is proclaimed the leader. And the Guardian's like, well, look, he didn't listen to me, but that's okay. I got a contingency plan, which the Guardian sort of reveals to be a yellow power battery. So, that is Volume 1 of the Green Lantern, Earth 1. Thoughts on that?
I feel like I thought it was gonna be like a red lantern, but a yellow lantern makes sense. I thought it was gonna be like Atrocitus in the skies or something like that. But that sounds cool, and it sounds very interesting. The fact that Kilowog is just kind of feel like he's kind of a newbie, a new fresh recruit. It's kind of I feel like that can make a very great friendship better between him and Hal. However, it also can make it that much worse if Kilowog is turned into a yellow lantern as well, which I feel like that could happen too. So I'm interested in knowing more about that.
Well, it's a good thing we're at Volume 2 now, because at this point, aliens have come to Earth. Earth has had dealings with aliens. Excuse me. Earth has had dealings with aliens, and there's sort of like there's a peacekeeping mission going on to another planet right now. And John Stewart is on that team to go to this planet. Oh man, I loved hearing you say that. But then also on planet Earth, characters like Carol Ferris and Thomas Kalmaku, two very popular Green Lantern characters, are trying to reveal the darkness of the Monarch Company. Which then it is revealed that the Monarch Company has actually been working with the Guardian of the Universe and the Yellow Power team. And then Sinestro is very much like, oh no, the Green Lanterns aren't good enough anymore. And so him and a group of Green Lanterns become Yellow Lanterns and all, and the Guardian is like, haha, I am the one in charge. Also, it is slowly revealed that the Green Lantern power is slowly going away for some reason. And then John Stewart does not become a Green Lantern in this story. No, he becomes a Yellow Lantern. Because it's not the same thing of yellow is like fear and you get corrupted by the Yellow Lantern. It's not really like that. It's just Yellow Lantern is stronger. That's it. And then Hal Jordan is able to save the day by bringing, because it is later revealed that the Green Lantern power battery is in the antimatter universe. It has been placed in the antimatter universe, hence why the Green Lanterns aren't as strong. And the Yellow Lantern power battery is on the main matter universe. And so Hal Jordan is able to defeat the Guardian. The Guardian dies. The Yellow Lanterns sort of continue on. I think there are still some Green Lanterns, but the Yellow Lantern continues on, but in the Antimatter universe, Hal Jordan continues to be a Green Lantern and like a major hero. And that's volume 2. And as of right now, that is the last Earth 1 story. So what are your thoughts?
Okay, so just to make sure, Hal Jordan is now because the Green Power Berry is in the antimatter universe. Does Hal go there as well to become a hero with that universe instead of
Hal
sticking with?
Hal quote unquote sacrificed himself to beat the Guardian and go to the antimatter universe. And so now Hal is looked at by the people who live in the antimatter universe as a Messiah type character because the Green Lantern powers are so strong there because the Green Lantern battery is on in and they're in the same place.
Okay, it's cool to have such a departure because it's cool to have a departure because now even though John Stewart is a Yellow Lantern, I don't feel like the Yellow Lanterns, besides Guardian, of course, are hopefully they're not all that evil since they're still since they're the only Lanterns that at least the only Lanterns that we know of right now that exist in the main Matter universe, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken. So
and even in the story, Sinestro, though at first, like, yeah, we need to use power, we need to use force, the Yellow Lantern ring, he eventually, like, says, okay, what I did was, what I said and what I did was wrong. I was wrong. Yeah. So I think they're very much trying to say, like, the Yellow Lanterns are good guys. They're not overly bad guys.
that's interesting. I know some people are probably not gonna like them, and the fact that they took away the fear aspect and will aspect of it as well. But my thing is, it's a different universe in this vast multiverse of comics and superheroes that we know of.
Yeah.
It's fine for it to be that way. That's
Yeah,
perfectly fine.
and I could have like oversimplified it to the max, but just for this entire podcast, I wanted to try to shorten this entire story because again, if you like even a tad of what we've been talking about, you need to go read these books because they're great books in my opinion. But now, because you hinted at, because I said I'm gonna wait until we get done with all these stories before I start talking about the future of Earth One, we're at that point now, and apparently a Flash Earth 1 and an Aquaman Earth 1 were supposed to have come out by now and like to have been made, but they haven't been. So, Zaddeus, with all the characters that you can choose from now and all the stories that you can pick, I want you to pitch an Earth 1 story.
Ooh, this is nice. Well, one thing I find interesting that so far none of these characters have ever crossed over with any of them. So I would like to stick it. I would like to stay, like for it to stay that way. I feel like the Flash. I feel like the Flash could have the biggest impact though, because I feel like we could, of course, have Barry Allen become still be the Flash, but and then of course, to switch up thing, maybe it ends up Barry's father is the one that's killed instead of his mother Nora.
Well,
But
also
I think the biggest.
if you know from the
Go ahead.
Silver Age of comics, Barry's parents are not dead. They never that wasn't even a thought until Flashpoint.
They very well could be alive too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be a trade. I think I've grown up so much on the fact that his mom has always died that I would like to see that changed up as well. Even though part of me, of course, we know I would like to keep it as an earbard Dawn, possibly as the Reverse Flash. But I would really like to see, and I can't remember if I've seen this before uh, or if I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head, for to be like actually one of Barry's children. Like I can't remember what the twins' names are. Is it Dawn and
Dawn and Dawn.
Dawn and Dawn? Yeah. To actually be the main villain of this whole arc. That would be kind of like my whole thing. Like for them to be the Reverse Flash in the future. Of course, Dawn is a villain that Barry eventually crosses paths with in his universe in his timeline. And yes, it could even be a Dawn from the future. But I would like to be actually a Reverse Flash, aka one of Barry's children, to actually be the one that took out his father. And they did this only simply for the fact that if something like this doesn't happen, they would never be born, and Barry would never be placed on the path where he would basically have them. So it'll be very interesting to see something like that happen in my type of Elseworlds Earth One Flash Earth One type of story.
Interesting. I never thought because J. Michael Straczynski, the writer of the Superman Earth One books, he was supposed to write the Flash Earth One books. So I don't even know if he even thought about doing something like that. So yeah, that is interesting. That is yeah. I mean yeah, having his kids be the Reverse Flash. Yeah, yeah. I like that. I think for me, what I would want them to do, and it could just be because I love team ups. I would personally love to see what Justice League Earth One would look like. To see if they do the traditional, hey, you're gonna go up against Starro in the first book to further fully push my point of this is just a modernization of the Silver Age of comics. Or even if they did do a Justice League Earth One, they didn't have any of the characters that we have seen so far. Like let's say it's Green Arrow is the leader of the team, and Black Canary is on the team, Martian Manhunter, like characters that haven't had their own books yet. Sort of like how Teen Titans doesn't have Robin on the team or Speedy. Do a Justice League book that doesn't have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, or Green Lantern, or even the Flash or Aquaman. Like make it that crazy of a book if they're thinking about doing it.
That sounds very cool as well. That does sound cool. I do have one minor thing that I think would be very interesting. I won't go into a whole pitch of it, but I would love to see the Legion of Doom kind of be that underground society that is trying to rise up against Wonder Woman, and would be of course led by Alex, or will be led by the new Lex Luthor in on Earth One, and you could actually see her pulling villains and heroes. Like again, one of the people that came to mind was Green Arrow, somebody that wants to kind of fight up against this resistance of power people. Yes, they're spreading a good message, but then again, they're still taking over the world, and that this Legion of Doom believes more in free will. And of course, some of these villains have their own uh, goals
Yeah.
in mind as well. But the heroes of it would actually be more for the freedom side of it. So I think
Yeah.
that would be very interesting. Yes, it'd be Legion of Doom, but of course they wouldn't call it the Legion of Doom in this world. It'd be
They
just called the Legion.
yeah, I
This could be a
go ahead.
go ahead. It could be a different variation of like the Legion of Superheroes, just different.
That is genius. That is legitimately genius. I don't know. I'm curious if they would do that story, but that's like a variation of the Legion of Superheroes, but it's basically the Legion of Doom. Yeah. That's interesting. They just call it the Legion of Supers. That's it.
Boom. That's it. Yeah.
That's that's genius. So yeah, that's great. And also, I think another point, and sort of going to the publication side, I think a reason why this series, this Earth One series, is not as well remembered as someone like me that I would love it to be, is because of the release schedule. It like they release it every few years, and even at this point, they haven't released one since like I gotta try to. I'm gonna look up when Green Lantern Earth One came out, because if it's what I think it is, then yeah, they haven't released a new one since 2020. So it's sort of, I feel like if this would have been like weekly comics instead, or monthly comics, that this series would be more remembered and even maybe touted as DC's Ultimate Universe if you were to compare it to Marvel. But what are your thoughts on that?
I do think it has to do with the release schedule because I think you have to kind of just stay relevant. You have to keep stay in people's minds, and even if it's not releasing a comic, releasing one of the novels every year or every other or every 2 years, you need to release something to kind of whet the appetite for what's more, for something more, for what's coming down the line. And I remember hearing about Earth One comics, but I think it was mainly again right like when the New 52 I think had begun, and then like it kind of a little bit after that, and then like DC Earth One and things like that. Like, but this was again like you said, like I think 2011 2012 time I think I even heard about these comics before until you brought them up to me last week as well. I'm like, okay, I remember I knew something about it, but I didn't know all that much about it. And I feel like that's a failure on DC's part. And then given the fact that I hate to think that this may actually not be on the top of the priority list, but given everything that's going on with Warner Brothers and DC right now, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I even think that these books could be good materials to use as source material for some of their upcoming movie projects, because a lot of it has done, like, a lot of the stories are great in my opinion, especially like the way they're portraying Alfred in the Batman right now is very much heavily inspired off of Alfred from this Batman story. I think if they were to do a Green Lantern movie, I think this could be an interesting take to go on. And same with the Teen Titans. Though I may there are moments where I'm like, man, this is very weird to go in this direction for Teen Titans. If they were to do it, I don't think I would be upset about it. So yeah, I think Earth One had a lot of potential, but I think again with the way Warner Brothers is their focus, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of Earth One books in the future. But that is everything to do with Earth One, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Zaddeus so much for joining me. Zaddeus, thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on, man. This was fun. I definitely plan on looking at and reading all these from here on out. But people can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Zaddeus. Zaddeus Smith. That's ZA2Ds Smith. I'm on doing trivia matches on Facebook, and you can find them on YouTube with Multiverse, MTC, a couple different full FMR, Full Metal Randoms, and stuff like that. And also, right now, currently, I've just started doing playthroughs of like video games as well. So I just started to Corey, but if you just find my YouTube page, Zaddeus Smith, and you can see some old school movie reviews I did, as well as one video of a playthrough I've done so far. So.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And you can find me everywhere on social media at MrEliMac. Next week, or the next episode, I'm going to be talking about Earth 2 of the DC Multiverse, probably one of the most popular Earths to talk about. I don't have a guest yet. I cannot confirm that, but I will try to, by at least the end of this week, get a guest so that we can get that ready for you. But again, thank you all so much for joining us. This has been Traveling the Multiverse. We've been talking about Earth 1. That has been Zaddeus. I have been MrEliMac, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.